Looking at our various major organizations, from our educational institutions to our leadership forums today, there is one particular word that has been cutting across from the base to the top, which is critical thinking. I hope you are wondering why we are talking about this issue, because it sounds critically but sounds logic. Now, we stand as a group to talk about this issue, that why do educated people do not think critically? We have seen critical thinking as the ultimate skill that is being needed in this modern world, because critical thinking is the continuous and self-commitment to actively improve on the quality of our own reasoning. But why is it that educated people who have been passing through series of educational journeys and knowledge, books, reading, writing, they do not think critically? As a group today, we are giving you the truth and the bars upon bars. What are we talking about? Now, we can talk about egocentrism. We can talk about sociocentrism. That they are some of the arousing points that makes people don't think critically, because they might think that their own is the best, egocentrism, or they might think that others' own is the best without questioning the reason. We are talking about this paradox, that why is it that educated people do not think critically? And our thesis is to give you the main insight as to how this thing is working, and to talk about all the sectors and points. Now, let's go through the table of contents, what we as a group have for you on this particular paradox. Number one, we'll be talking about the case of critical thinking. 2, the cognitive and psychological barriers to critical thinking. 3, the educational and social barriers. 4, why education does not guarantee critical thinking. And 5, the pathways forward for this particular paradox.
I'm Leila, and I'm going to talk about the case for critical thinking. When we talk about the case for critical thinking, we are talking about why we need to think critically. One of the reasons why we should think critically it protects our freedom. John Dewey said, for a country to work hard, the members have to think critically. They do not have to just listen to what other people are saying and just go with it, or else they would be manipulated or taken advantage by the powerful leaders of today. The second point here is that it helps in job acquisition. When we say that, we mean jobs like law, medicine, they need critical thinking in solving problems. Here, the World Economic Forum has stated critical thinking as the top 3 most required skill in job succession. Here, you may find a worker who follows instructions, but it's not easy to get a worker who thinks critically to solve problems. And the third point is that it has survival skills online. Here we are, whereby the internet is full of fake videos. So being a person who is able to think critically, spot out these videos, isn't just a school skill, but a survival skill to make this world a better and fair place.
Now we will talk about cognitive and psychological barriers. These are problems inside our own minds that make critical thinking hard, even for educated people. Then the Kahneman talks about 2 ways the brain thinks. System 1, which is very fast and automatic, like you reacting without thinking. And then system 2 is very slow and careful, like you sit down to really work through a problem. So the problem is most of us use system 1 too much, even when the situation needs careful thinking. We trust our first instinct and then we move on, instead of stopping to check it properly. That is one big reason why even smart, educated people still struggle to think critically.
Confirmation bias is one of the biggest barriers in critical thinking. We naturally seek out, interpret, or remember information that support what we already believe, while ignoring this or dismissing anything that challenges it. Importantly, it doesn't feel biased if you think that way. It feels like you are being logical or reasonable. Even highly educated people fall into traps. They simply get better at constructing sophisticated rationalization for their own existing view. The problem is made worse by Dunning-Kruger effect. People with limited knowledge in a domain trained to dramatical overestimating their own competency. They lack the very skill needed to recognize their own poor reasoning, so they feel confidently wrong. They aren't signs of personal stupidity. They are evolutionary features our brain developed for quick decision and
educational and social barriers. This is another reason why people don't really think critically. Reading a rule book won't make you a champion if you don't really step out on the field. Yet, that's how we treat critical thinking today. Paul Ferry said, and I quote, "School focuses heavily on memorizing facts rather than practicing reasoning. We are taught to obey instead of ask questions. If you doubt or you ask questions, you are considered disrespectful." Internet makes it worse. The internet only shows us what we want to see and what we like when we search for something. That makes us feel as if we are intelligent or we are smart, yet we are only deceiving ourselves. To be a real thinker, we have to choose the truth over our comfort. That means stepping outside of our safe zone or our comfort zone and ask hard questions and be okay with being wrong.
The next reason why even the educated find it difficult to think critically is because schools often emphasize memorization over reasoning, while society may discourage questioning authority. As a result, even the educated people have knowledge but still struggle to think critically.
Our education does not guarantee critical thinking. You went to school, you passed your exams, you got your degree. So does that make you a critical thinker? No, let's look at why. Here's something school really says out loud. A degree proves you went to class, you took exams, and then you also handed in the assignment. But it doesn't prove something. That is, it doesn't let you ask questions about your ideas. It doesn't let you change your mind even if the evidence says so. So philosopher Heavy makes it clear in a point saying reasoning has to be trained. It does not come from automatically with a diploma. Also, psychologist Carol Dweck also said something about critical thinking. He studied that how students think about their intelligence is fixed. They think about their intelligence to be full of grades, rankings. Students view their intelligence as a fixed mindset. This means they believe their worth comes from looking smart, not from actually wrestling and then solving difficult problems. Over time, students learn 3 lessons. The first one, saying I don't know feels risky. The second one, changing their mind when it looks like a weakness. And then the third one, the right answer matters more than the honest question. Philosopher Martin Lippmann points out a deeper problem. He said it's not just about what schools teach, it's about what schools never ask students to do. Look at their own reasoning, notice their own hidden assumptions, be willing to update their thinking when the evidence says so. This creates what we call educated non-thinkers, some with plenty of knowledge but passive mind. They are not missing information, they are not missing the habit of questioning it.
More on the pathway forward or ways we can improve critical thinking among educated people. The first point I would like to establish is explicit critical thinking instruction. According to Lippmann, students should be taught how to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and think carefully before accepting information. For example, they can analyze a news article and decide whether the source is reliable. The second point I would like to establish is reform assessment to reward reasoning. Ennis also suggested that assessments should focus more on reasoning and problem solving rather than simple memorization. For instance, students can be asked to explain steps they use to solve a problem instead of giving the final answer. These approaches help students become more independent, logical, and thoughtful thinkers.
The next point is build growth mindset from Drake. Teach students to treat mistakes as feedbacks, not failure. For example, after a low marks, students review feedback and adjust their study approach. The next point is practice intellectual humility from Paul and Elder. Value opening to new evidence and changing your mind when facts demand it. For example, during debate, update your view if presented with strongest evidence. Therefore, growth mindset help us learn, whilst intellectual humility help us learn together.
Critical thinking is often difficult, not because people are lazy or unintelligent, but because of challenges built into our society and minds. First, our brains use shortcuts that can lead us to believe information that matches our existing opinions. Second, many educational systems focus more on memorization than on teaching students how to analyze information and question sources. Third, social media platforms are designed to maximize engagement, which can cause misinformation to spread quickly. However, this problem is not impossible to solve. Individuals can learn to recognize misleading information before they believe it. Schools can teach media and digital literacy skills, and technology companies can encourage users to verify information before sharing it. This is especially important today because